Number three is making assumptions about us just because we are black. And this really pisses me off. If you were a white woman, they would not assume your answer or what you think. They would not assume that you were a Democrat. Things like that, you guys, are a red flag, because that is a man who has certain stereotypes about not only black women, but black people. This is Dee, and this is the Come Up Straight Up. Welcome back to my channel, and if you are new to this channel, welcome. Well guys, I am back with a new video. This video is inspired by my Girl Talk Live series, my big fat online dating adventure. I am in the midst of it, and you guys, I am going to put the link either here or below so you guys can join my live stream on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have a blast, and right now I am doing some online dating just to see what's out there and how things have changed during COVID. If you watch this channel, and you should be watching this channel, you know that I am a proponent of interracial dating. I have dated interracially my entire life. I am a widow. My husband that passed away was a white man, and it is something that I encourage all women of color to do. However, there are some challenges and some red flags you should look out for if you are interested in online dating, and I'm going to mention some of them today because I understand why black women are hesitant to date white men or outside of their race, and the concerns many black women have are completely legit. I have not dated online in probably over 5 years. It's been a minute. So I wanted to see what the climate is like, particularly for women 40, 45, and even 50 and over. And I am a woman who has always been approached by white men and dated white men pretty much, well, exclusively. And again, I am a strong, staunch supporter of interracial dating. I think black women are doing themselves a disservice if they are only sitting around waiting for black men, because black men are not sitting around waiting for you. But you guys, again, I understand the hesitancy and the concern about dating men of another race, particularly a white man. So I'm going to get into some of the red flags that you should look for. Now, the first one is, and this is something that I'm discovering now that I've been sort of reintroduced to online dating after so long: political views. And I've got my list right here. You know, every man, pretty much, my husband that passed away, the last guy I was in the relationship with, they have all been Republicans. And that's been fine. You know, Republicans are all about their money, and they are more on the conservative side. However, being a conservative these days is very different than what it was prior to Trump. These days, being a conservative has some serious sort of racial undertones, potentially. So it is important to read profiles and look for sort of like trigger topics, like reference to Black Lives Matter. Last week I came across a profile. This guy had been, going back and forth with me, messaging me, and I always read profiles, but somehow, I don't know, because I was getting so many likes and stuff, I missed this one. And I don't know what made me check when we were messaging. I went back, read through it, and I saw he had in his profile all lives matter and blue lives matter. And right then and there, I was like, I cut him off. And a white man makes reference to all lives matter and blue lives matter. That is a definite red flag that he is probably a racist, that he has no respect for the victimization, the unfair treatment of Black people in America. So number one is political views. Be very conscious of the sneak diss by potential racist and white supremacists. Number two is a man who comments on race, like almost from day one, and asks race-related questions. Questions and conversations about race that are completely unnecessary. You know how they say you should not talk about politics or religion on the first date or the first few dates? It should also be politics, religion, and race. And why this is a big red flag, you guys, is if you were a white woman, this would not be a topic of a conversation, because again, politics, religion, and race kind of falls under that umbrella. Men who offer support for Black causes because they think that's what you want to hear. So a white man raising race-related issues or questions immediately is a red flag. Number three is making assumptions about us just because we are Black. And this really pisses me off. When white men think that all of us speak for the collective. Well, what do Black people think about this? Or do Black people like this? Or do Black, like we don't speak for Black people. We are all individuals, right? And if you were a white woman, they would not ask you to speak for the whole white race. They would ask you what you thought of the respective issue. They would not assume your answer or what you think. They would not assume that you were a Democrat. They would not assume that you have children. Things like that, you guys, are a red flag, because that is a man who has certain stereotypes about not only Black women, but Black people. Number four, the man who has never dated Black women before. Now, this one has a caveat, because this is it a deal breaker? No, not necessarily. I have dated men who had never dated a Black woman before, and it was fine, and I'll tell you why. A lot of these men, especially if they're like 40s, late 40s, mid 40s, even in the 50s, they got married and they did what they were supposed to do. They got married to white women, which is, typically what people do. They marry someone of their own race, but they have always been attracted to and even had a preference for Black women, but they went with the status quo. They have a 15, 20, whatever year marriage, and they get divorced, and they decide at that point, you know what, I'm 40, 45, 50 years old, I'm going to date whomever I want. And what I want, or whom I want to date, is a Black woman. That is who I'm attracted to, that is my preference, and that is who I want to date. Should you meet a man online who fits this criteria, 45, now has an interest in Black women, never dated one before, ask him these questions. Well, why not? And see what his answer is. Because it's one thing to feel as if you had to conform to societal standards and then feel, now at this point, screw it, I'm going to go for what I want. That is one thing. It is quite another when you are a white man who has a fetish for Black women. So what are the red flags that might tell you that a white man is fetishizing you as a black woman. Number one, he says, oh, how much he loves black women. That is a potential red flag, because so many of the white men, and I can attest to this, who claim to love black women are also some of the most vile, racist, and white supremacists. So don't fall for the okie doke when it comes to that. When they make comments about your skin color, oh, your skin is so tan and beautiful, your hair, is that your real hair? Those sort of comments are red flags. I can tell you from personal experience, particularly now that I'm doing this big fat online dating adventure, I have come across some of these men. These are the conservatives, the Trump supporters that are constantly hitting me up. And it's funny, just yesterday, I called one out. He messaging me, I have this great interest, you're gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. And I went and I took a look at his profile, always read the profile, and I could see that, whatever, you have to designate what kind of, what ethnicity you might want. Some people say no preference, Hispanic, whatever. He specifically said white Caucasian, nothing else. So when you specify one race, you have to exclude everything else. So I essentially called him out on that. I let him know that I'm just a little confused. You mentioned in your profile that you are only interested in white women. I am not a white woman, so I'm just a little confused as to why you have reached out to me. The reality is there are a lot of white men who see black women as some kind of exotic pet. Beware of the white man who sees you as something of a collector's item. Number 6, and this is a big one, sexual curiosity. The white man who wants to have sex with a black woman, or who has had sex with a black woman, throughout history, black women have been the object of white men's fantasy. That is why, so many of us were raped on the plantation by the plantation owners. White men have always objectified and sexualized us. Unfortunately, these days, black women are stereotyped as over-sexualized, down for anything, freaky. And this is what bothers me about like the Cardi B's and the Megan Thee Stallions, the twerking and the WAP and all of that stuff. It sort of perpetuates that stereotype of black women. So be mindful and be careful of the white man who only wants you because he thinks he can have like mind-blowing sex with a black woman. Number 7, he is uncomfortable around black people. He doesn't have any black friends. He has no knowledge or interest in our culture. The certain topics that are related to us, like Juneteenth or like Black History Month, he knows nothing about or has no interest in, or maybe takes exception to. Like why are those specific carve outs for us? It is virtually impossible to date a white man who is uncomfortable around black people in general. A white man who is completely uncomfortable around black people is likely only interested in having sex with you. And red flag number 8 is the white man who tries to be down. The white man who is desperate to get invited to the cookout, so to speak. As I mentioned previously, my husband that is deceased was a white man, and this was a white man from Tucson, Arizona. But at no point did he try to be anything other than who he was, and he fit right into the family. So you want someone who is who they are. Beware of any white man who thinks that he has to, quote unquote, talk black when he's around you. If he doesn't behave like he does around his friends and his family when he is around your friends and your family, that is a potential red flag. So those are 8 potential red flags that you should look for if you are dating interracially with a white man. Unfortunately, since Trump, the culture has changed. 2020 was a crazy year in terms of race relations and just how divisive this country became. That is something you need to be aware of. It is certainly something that I am aware of and conscious of as I embark upon this big fat online dating adventure. Again, join me for Girl Talk Live every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I am once again in the midst of my online dating adventure. I will be giving another update this week, and I think a lot of you, particularly those who have not dated interracially, will find a lot of what I say very illuminating. I am sharing my online dating experiences with you, including messages exchanged, text messages. If there are some, I am being completely transparent with you guys. So I hope you guys will join me in this adventure, because it is quite the adventure. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, thumbs it up, you guys. And do not forget to follow me on Instagram. The link to my Instagram page is in the description box below. So, till next time, mwah.